The attacks on crypto have been really brutal recently, but the price continues to hold strong. Now there's something coming right around the corner that might send us breaking out to the upside and ultimately exploding to the moon. At the time of recording, Bitcoin is sitting at about $63,000, and it's still trading within this possible bullish flag with a possible price target of above $100,000. And as I've said in previous videos, as long as it doesn't break down below this support at about $60,000 again, then hopefully this is going to be the floor and we can continue to the upside as soon as a catalyst comes in. Cat Butt Lips over here has been attacking the cryptocurrency space. According to this post by Radar, Senator Elizabeth Warren says cryptocurrency is the payment of choice for child abuse images in her letter to the Department of Justice. These people will say anything they can to try to scare people out of the market and make you feel like a criminal if you are invested in cryptocurrency, but wait until this lady hears about the US dollar and how much criminal activity is done with it. Crypto T spelled it out nicely. She says the FBI calls crypto money so that they can arrest you for money laundering. The IRS calls it property so that they can tax you on capital gains. The SEC calls it a security so they can sue every exchange, while the CFTC calls it a commodity so you can't use it as a currency. And I added to this saying, and they all call you a criminal so that they can take away your freedom. Luckily, it looks like there is somebody starting to stand up against Elizabeth Warren, as according to this article on CoinDesk, Warren rival for Senate race John Deaton argues for Coinbase in SEC challenge. A Republican lawyer and crypto defender who hopes to be Senator Elizabeth Warren's opponent in the Massachusetts Senate race has filed a supporting brief in a Coinbase clash against the Securities and Exchange Commission. Coinbase wants to get a higher court to decide whether tokens that trade on a secondary market with no obligations on the token's issuers should be considered securities. Deaton is arguing in favor of the exchange's efforts, saying the SEC is taking unconstitutional shortcuts in its accusations that certain token trading violates securities laws. It would be a really great change of pace to see Elizabeth Warren being replaced with somebody who's actually pro-cryptocurrency, or at least somebody who doesn't just act like they're standing up for the people while simultaneously calling them all criminals and attacking any kind of innovation that could pull people out of poverty. Next week, in just under 4 days at the time of recording, we've got the next FOMC meeting, and currently there's a 97% chance that they're going to continue with their pause. We're still not expecting the first rate cut, apparently, until all the way out in September, and that's not even certain, obviously, because according to this, between that and having another pause that month, it looks like it's about 50-50. Some people are apparently also starting to bet that there's going to be a 50 basis point rate cut in the September meeting. And usually whenever the Fed does finally start cutting rates, it's because something has really hit the fan and they have to start doing more than 25 basis point cuts, so this is a possibility. One thing that could cause them to panic and cut rates drastically would be if we continue to see more banks collapsing. Just yesterday on Friday, we had the Republic First Bank officially collapsing and being seized by regulators, and this is different than the First Republic Bank that was actually collapsing last year and the biggest collapse that we've seen since 2008. Whenever those collapses were happening last year, the Fed started a Bank Term Funding Program, or BTFP, and that actually expired just about a month ago on March 11th. And apparently this has really been holding the banks up and keeping them from collapse, because in just over a month, the cracks have started to show again, and we're starting to see the first signs that maybe more banks are going to be collapsing. Last time it started with some pretty small banks like this, and we started to see a contagion effect, and we could start to see that happening next week, as like I said, this one collapsed on Friday right before closing. And if there's any more instability in the banking sector and the Fed doesn't get it figured out by Monday, then we could see further collapses and they might have to do something drastic. In positive news for Dogecoin, though, on Monday, it looks like Dogecoin futures are going to be launching on Coinbase, as B said in this post. And Dogecoin futures are traded on margin, which makes them very risky, so I'm not going to be personally trading any Dogecoin futures. I prefer to hold actual Dogecoins in my personal wallet, actually. But this could cause a lot of volume and volatility to come for the Dogecoin price, and it could cause it to skyrocket to the moon again. Unfortunately, the 71-day inflow boom has ended for BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, according to this article on Yahoo Finance. And apparently BlackRock did have a pretty much flat day, with net flows being basically zero. And for the very first time, according to Crypto Slate, it looks like Fidelity has seen its first outflows. These ETFs have been breaking records, and eventually it was bound to happen that they were going to see a day without inflows or maybe with even some outflows, and this was to be expected, but this has some people thinking that something really catastrophic is coming for the price. It looks like yesterday the net flows for all ETFs continued to be negative, and according to this article on CoinDesk, ARK has sold the last of its ProShares Bitcoin futures ETF shares. With all of this selling going on, people are expecting that this is going to be followed up with some real negative price action, but as buying pressure increases and supply decreases, I think soon we're going to be seeing a supply shock, and any Bitcoin that anybody buys off of these Bitcoin ETFs is just a little bit of Bitcoin that BlackRock can't get their hands on, which is going to make the supply squeeze even stronger. This article goes on to say, though, ARK bought over 4 million BitO shares last year as a short-term play in anticipation of the approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs in the US. Apparently, Kathy used it as a proxy, and she was basically just trying to stack up a bunch of money that she could move into the actual spot Bitcoin ETFs that she was going to be launching whenever they finally got approved. It says, following the consistent sales in January, ARK has sold off the last of its BitO shares in the last week, but meanwhile, its own ARK21 shares Bitcoin ETF ARK-B is now the fund's largest holding with 2,480,644 shares worth $160.6 million. So basically, she's been moving the funds from the ProShares Bitcoin Futures ETF and moving them into the ARK-B spot ETF, and I guess maybe that's where she's been getting a lot of funding. But now that she doesn't have money to pull from the futures ETF, she's going to have to put fresh capital into the spot price of Bitcoin, which is ultimately going to be better for the price, especially as these other spot Bitcoin ETF issuers run into the same problem of limited supply. Finally, according to The Street, it looks like regulators are expected to deal a major blow to US crypto markets, as next month we actually have the first deadlines coming up for the spot Ether ETFs, and according to Van Eck, its spot Ether ETF application would probably get rejected by the SEC. With a looming deadline on spot Bitcoin ETFs, I think that's supposed to say Ether ETFs, approaching next month. Van Eck is not the only issuer worried about how the SEC will act, and they said we are the first to file as well for Ethereum in the US, and we know ARK Invest's Cathie Wood are likely the first in line for May, I guess, to probably get rejected, the Van Eck CEO told CNBC recently. So it looks like most people are actually expecting these ETFs to be denied, so it could be negative for the price. But if we do get a surprise approval and everybody's expecting it not to be approved, then we could go skyrocketing upwards. According to this article on Cointelegraph, Franklin Templeton has just listed its Ethereum ETF on the DTCC. This obviously doesn't guarantee the SEC is going to approve Franklin Templeton's spot Ether ETF application, but the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, as it says here, is a website that is a significant platform for the securities transactions in the United States. Maybe this means that Franklin Templeton or the DTCC know something that we don't know, or that maybe these other issuers of the Bitcoin ETFs don't know. And maybe it is going to be approved because this is the kind of stuff we started to see right before Bitcoin got approved. But it's definitely not a sure thing, and I've heard people say that there's basically like a 25% chance that this thing could get approved. And with the way the SEC and the Democratic Party have been acting towards cryptocurrency recently, I don't think they even wanted the Bitcoin ones to happen. So I think they're going to do everything that they possibly can to make sure that the Ethereum ones don't actually get to start trading. Either way, though, I think this bull market is still intact, because if we were seeing these kind of attacks on the cryptocurrency space about a year ago, well, then we would have been going crashing down probably like 20 or 30%. Now that things are so bullish and everybody's just anticipating the super parabolic pump after the halving that just actually happened, it looks like there's not really much that these regulators can do to push us down. And this stuff might come back to bite us whenever the bear market does finally come back around. But for now, it looks like we're just getting ready for the next catalyst that's going to send us breaking up out of this bull flag and skyrocketing upwards. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is there really anything that all of these fudders can do to send the price actually plummeting? Or is the bull market raging and we're not going to see any dips? It's only rips from here. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if I brought you value. But most importantly, don't forget to do only good every day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.